Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started. If you guys could just type in the chat and let me know that you can hear me, that would be awesome. And I'm going to apologize right now because my voice is a little hoarse. Wonderful Indiana allergies. Great. Okay, so uh, today's session is all about your ViewSonic boards. And I know that we did a couple trainings last year. We came out and actually did lessons with your students. So when I was preparing for this, I was thinking about like what would be the most beneficial for you to think about before the start of next school year. So I compiled 8 tips to start the year with ViewSonic, and we'll go through each of those 8 today. There might be some that you already do. There might be some that you've never thought about doing before. And then there may even be some that you think about and then you think, man, I don't think that's going to work for us. And that's okay. These are really just to help you begin to think how you might use this board this year, now as year 2. For those of you that were here last year and with us with our ViewSonic boards, we want to think about using them in more ways this year because they're not new anymore. So there's a lot of different things that we can do. So we are going to start, get my slides. Let's talk about the 8 tips that I'm going to give you today. First, we're going to talk about some back to school night activities. And that's really because that's like your first opportunity to really show the students what they're able to do with these boards, kind of show parents like what could happen with the board. Um, the only thing that we ask with this is like, just don't shove the board in the corner and throw a sheet over it. Make it a part of your back to school night activities. The second thing we're going to look at is some IXL lessons. So this was something that I picked up last year in one of the kindergarten classrooms that I visited. So I'll just give you a few tips with how do I utilize some of the tools that I have as a teacher that I've had for years, like IXL, with that ViewSonic board, and then also with those iPads that my students have. The next one we're going to talk about is importing Google Slides. So this is actually an update for ViewSonic. So came out sometime in the spring last year, but you may have missed it, and that's totally fine. We're actually going to look at what does this look like? Is it beneficial for me? Should I bother doing it, or should I keep things in Google Slides? Next, we're going to look at Seesaw. So one of my favorite tools is Seesaw. I have Seesaw number 1 here, but it's really, we're going to be looking at a few different things in Seesaw throughout this. ViewSonic Originals next. Virtual decorations. And I think some of these might be actually out of order, which is fine. It is. They are out of order. Daily calendar and number of the day. So our ViewSonic Originals will actually be the last thing. So we'll flip that around and we'll just go wherever we decide to go. So I do want to mention that I'm going to throw a lot of information at you. I realize that all of this is being recorded, so you can always rewatch it. You don't have to remember everything. When I send my follow-up email today, you'll get a copy of these slides that I'm sharing with you. You'll get a link to the recording. And then if there are any like templates that I share out or sample activities or anything like that, you'll get links to those things too. So you don't have to worry about remembering everything. What I might suggest doing is like just grab a notebook and jot down a few things that you want to follow up on. And obviously, like I don't have a ViewSonic board behind me. You probably didn't bring your ViewSonic board home with you this summer. So we don't have our ViewSonic boards, but we can just think about, okay, I know that I have a touch screen. What are some things that my students and I can do with that touch screen? Okay, so back to school night activities. So out of curiosity, and I want you guys to go ahead and type this in the chat. Do you have your back to school nights scheduled? Is your school doing those this year? My kids go to Klondike, and I really don't know if they have them scheduled even. I don't know what it's going to look like with the construction. So back to school night. Students probably might come into your classroom, especially if you're a kindergarten teacher, you might have like a kindergarten back to school night. You've got that back to school night and what's on the board? What's happening? Right now you have the option of both your ViewSonic board and your projector. So maybe with your projector, you're putting something that is static, right? Or like maybe it's like a slideshow that just plays. But on your ViewSonic board, could you have something that's a little interactive for the students? So we're going to look at one of the back to school night activities that we have available to us. Now, there are tons. So this isn't an all-inclusive back to school night. But these back to school night activities happen to be in Seesaw. We did make these available last year. I didn't really hear if people use them. I know some people did. I really don't know how many people use them. But we've got 3 activities. So I'm pulling them up in my Seesaw right now. And again, remember, I am going to make sure that I share these with you after today's session so you'll have them. So in Seesaw, it's just called Back to School Night Activities for Students and Parents. And you saw on my slideshow that there were 3 things for the students to do. So when you get this activity, what's wonderful in Seesaw, and I love this, I'm going to actually zoom in so you can see this. This is a newer option in Seesaw. We have this present to class. This is perfect for the ViewSonic boards. So if you haven't really been a Seesaw user before, open your eyes because Seesaw's got a lot of stuff in here, and present to class is our magic button that's going to make everything more interactive on the ViewSonic boards. So this one happens to be, this is our class museum. So again, I want you to, close your eyes and imagine you've got this displayed on your Seesaw or on your ViewSonic board. And then students are able to come up, they can change the marker and they can draw a picture. I'm drawing it with my mouse, but they can draw a picture with their finger, with the pen in the class museum. And so then at the end of the night, you have this wall of all these pictures that your students drew for the new school year. So that's one of the activities. The next one is, and I love this, let us know when your birthday is. So when's your birthday? So with this one, I like to use the glow marker for this one. And students can draw a candle on their birthday cupcake. So what month is your birthday? And this might be something that mom and dad help them with, or whoever they bring with them that night, they help them fill out, okay, when's your birthday? And I would really probably just pick one of these to have up in your classroom on that ViewSonic board. This next one is not a drawing one. It's just a moving one. And this one is move your favorite color crayon into our crayon box. So when students move this, we have this built so that it actually goes into the crayon box. And then at the end of the night, you'll have 20, 25, however many students you have, you'll have all those crayons kind of sitting in the crayon box. So those are 3 activities in ViewSonic or in your Seesaw that you're able to do for back to school night. These are not the only things you could do for back to school night. You might even find others in the community library, which we'll look at in just a second. But the big thing that I want you to remember with this one, and I'm going to put it in the chat, is present to class. That is our big tip for this one. Present to class is your secret weapon to get all of that Seesaw goodness on your ViewSonic board for the whole group. So a lot of really cool activities in here with present to class. So we saw these 3 back to school night activities, and I just really want to encourage you to go through Seesaw and see if there's anything else that your students could interact with for back to school night. All right. Our next one, let me get to, there we go. Our next one, oh, I went too far. IXL lessons and games. Okay, so with this one, I didn't really think of IXL as something that I could use with the ViewSonic board. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because it's just a website. I can use any website I want to with my ViewSonic board. But there are, especially with the younger grades, there are some lessons that work really well with your ViewSonic board. So you can see here, I pulled out two examples. So that first one is the students are actually moving those blocks and then we're adding it up and submitting it. If you have not used a group jam in IXL, this is the perfect opportunity to do that. So I'm going to open up my IXL. I thought I had it open already. That's okay. Oh, I did. There we go. Okay, I'm going to open up my IXL. I'm going to get that screen over here. I'm going to find a skill that I want my students to practice. Let's say we want to, I'm going to go to kindergarten. I'm going to do the same one that I already gave. So I pick a skill, and this is for group jam. Pick a skill, and I might even then share that skill. I'm going to put it up on my ViewSonic board. So we're all looking at this together. Now, my students, I'm going to click this down here. There's a button that says Start Group Jam. Start Group Jam. I don't have any students right now, so nothing's going to happen, but all my students would show up here and we want to add that into our group jam. When my students open up IXL, they're going to be able to join that group jam. What happens is when we do this activity, so let's say I'm going to do this together, I'm going to give them a minute to do this activity by themselves. So on their iPad, they're moving the blocks and then they're going to type it in. How many boats are there in all? 3. And I'm going to click submit. So are they. At the top of this, when I have a group jam, I'm going to see how many students got it right and how many students got it wrong. Now, this is not to call any students out, but what this does is maybe then we have some conversations. Hey, Johnny, I saw that you got this right. Can you explain to us how you did this problem? Or does anybody have any questions? Let's partner up and talk about what questions we might have with this. I saw this work beautifully in a kindergarten classroom this past year. And again, there was no shame in if a student got it wrong. They were all learning together and working on these things together. And the Viewsonic board was really there to help facilitate that group learning that was happening individually on the iPads and whole group with the Viewsonic board. So really a really good use of this for whole group instruction. Now, if you didn't already know this, IXL uses a lot of the games from ABC Yacht, which is a big popular website that a lot of our students have used. And IXL, I think they bought these games. So you don't have to worry about having a subscription. These games are available. So if you want students to maybe play a game on the Viewsonic board, you can use these games in IXL. So lots of really fun activities within there. And those games are going to be found for math and language arts. Those are the subscriptions we have. Those are going to be found in the same place that you would find your skills. So you're going to have games there. And then once I start that game, then we're going to play it on our board.
Segment and write your answer in the notebook.
All right, so that IXL one, I'm going to type in what we learned. So we learned about group jam and games. So we have present to class, we have group jam and games. And then the next thing that we're going to talk about is importing Google Slides. So go ahead and type in the chat. Do you have Google slideshows that you've used in the past with students? So I know a lot of teachers had those from our remote learning days. have maybe bought them on Teachers Pay Teachers, but Google slideshows that you'd like to convert or you'd like to be able to use with your ViewSonic board, but it just hasn't worked yet. So, Christy, you said you use your Google Slides for morning messages. So, what I'm going to tell you is this tip probably won't be applicable to morning messages because I'm assuming at this point, like you've got a groove, you've got a rhythm for those morning messages. You don't really need to change anything. So, that's totally fine. This is going to be like, I've got this Google slideshow. I can't really import it into Seesaw because it doesn't really come over nicely. I want to still be able to use it, but maybe with the ViewSonic board a little better at least. So I'm actually going to launch my ViewSonic whiteboard app. It's actually called My View Board. They've renamed it. It used to be ViewSonic Whiteboard. This is what we came out in the spring to do an IIB on this tool. So it's that whiteboard software, it has pens and toolbox and all of that kind of stuff. So I am figure out where my board went. Oh, I know where it went. There we go. Okay, so this is what that view board software looks like. Again, we have already trained you on using a lot of these tools. We have videos on our YouTube channel that gives you more information on each of the tools and everything. But what I wanted to highlight today is the ability now to import Google Slides. So when I click on my magic box, which is like the cardboard box with the blue, looks like icons stacked in it, I have Google Drive as one of my options here. Now, I happen to have a Google slideshow that I'm going to search for. What I would not recommend doing is trying to go through each folder to find it. I would type in the name of it just because I found that it takes a little longer to load. So just keep that in mind. And I'm going to double click on this. It is downloading. This slideshow happens to only have one slide, so it works out well. If it had more than one slide, I would see each of those slides as an option. Now I'm going to select the slide that I want to import. I have import as an object or import as background. Let's talk about these two things. Import as background is going to take a picture of what's on the slide and just pop it right onto the whiteboard. That's it. Nothing interactive about it. Just put it in as a background, which for some things is totally fine. For this though, I'm going to import it as an object and you'll see why in just a second. I'm going to make sure it's imported as landscape. And we're now going to see this slide show up on my whiteboard software. So a couple things. I can zoom out on this. We have an infinite canvas for ViewSonic. So it doesn't matter how big your slides are. You can always resize things. So that's easy. Let me move this away. There we go. So this slide here, you can see I have this background with the shark in it. I have this text right here. I'm actually going to select that text and I now have the ability to move that text around. I can delete it. If I double click, I can actually select it and change what it says. So maybe I don't want the directions on there anymore because I'm going to actually talk about these, or I want to duplicate this and redo the whole story. Okay. And then down here at the bottom, you can see, or on the left-hand side, you can see that I have this little box. I'm actually going to pull them off of here so you can see each of them individually. So I've got these 3 boxes here. Now in Google Slides, These were duplicated. There was more than one of these, and they were like stacked on top of each other. But in my whiteboard, when it came over, it didn't do that. So that's something I need to know. If I had put it all as a background, I would not be able to move these boxes or change this text. It would all be one solid picture that I cannot extract anything from. But because I imported it as an object, I'm able to move things around. Now with this one, what I want to do is I essentially want a stack of these blocks so that I'm able to pull off as many as I want. Okay. So the thing that we used last year when we came out to talk to you about this is so tiny on my screen, and so I'm sure it's tiny for you, but there are two pieces of paper with crosshairs on them, and it's called, and I'll put this in the chat, drag to copy. Drag to copy. So what it's going to do is it's going to take that beautiful single box that I have, and it's going to allow me to have an infinite stack of them so that we can pull those over. I can do the same thing with my green. I want to drag to copy this one. And then the red ones were used for some subtraction ones, so we don't have to worry about that one. But if we did, we could use those red ones too. So drag to copy is going to take some of those interactive Google slideshows and actually make them what they are intended to be, which is way more interactive than they are if they're just an image or a background. What I like about this versus using this exact thing in Google Slides is that drag to copy. I don't have to worry about copying a bunch of those squares. When I drag to copy, it also locks the size. So this original size of the blue square is going to stay. So I don't have to worry about the students accidentally resizing these things or making them any bigger. Okay, so that's drag to copy on our Viewsonic whiteboard. All right, next up we have seesaw activities. So I kind of already talked a little bit about seesaw, but I'm going to get into another one. We're highlighting a teacher right here. Again, in one of our classroom visits, they were doing their calendar. So they're like their morning calendar. They do this every single morning. And I believe this was closer to the start of the year. Yeah, it looks like the date on the picture is September. So it was closer to the start of the year. And this is a kindergarten class. So I know that that is always a consideration, is like, how far into the year did they learn how to do that? And are they 5-year-olds? Are they kindergartners? So with this seesaw activity, these are actually pre-built calendars. So Seesaw has a library of calendars that are available for you to use. I'm going to get back to my Seesaw. They update them every single month in your Seesaw library. So when we click on the Seesaw library, there's a section called Daily Routines. So if you're thinking like, I like the calendar that I use, but I need something else. Or if you like the calendar that you use, keep on using it. Don't worry about changing anything. But if you'd like a new calendar, or you're thinking of, hey, I'd really like something different. Let me go back to like August of 2023. So I go to August of 2023. It has it broken down by week. And then remember that first tip that we talked about, we learned that we're going to do present to class. It's going to make it full screen. And then we have all the things that we're going to do with this calendar. So I can move my red rectangle. I can put what month we're in, or what season we're in, sorry. And then it has a ton of different slides that have similar activities. Weather, days in school, this week's activities, and then it has activities for each of those days. So there's a ton of different things in here. And then when I'm done, I click that check mark. It's going to save our progress so we don't have to come in tomorrow and start all over again. So why do we bring this tip up? Because we already kind of talked about Seesaw. I brought this one up because in this example, this teacher not only had the daily calendar pulled up on their ViewSonic boards, but if you look in the magnifying glass, they also had the students on Seesaw doing the daily calendar. So I know like even my fifth grader was like, I want to be the one that does the calendar every day. It's a very popular job. Everybody wants to volunteer for it. But with this, you're giving, yes, one student up at the board, they have their moment to participate in the calendar, but then every student has essentially a mini ViewSonic board in their lap where they can actually participate in what's happening. So just remember that Seesaw activities are mini ViewSonic board is the iPad and then big ViewSonic board for you. So you can either look at it as you have a giant iPad or they have mini ViewSonic boards. So that tip we're going to call mini ViewSonic boards. Okay, I love this one. It's just because it's fun. Virtual decorations. Okay, I brought this one in because last year, and we didn't even think about this. Last year, I was in a classroom. I was doing an IIB, and the slides that I was doing, they were going crazy. They were like advancing without me, or they would like go back. It looked like somebody was trying to click on the screen. Like I was projecting remotely, but I didn't really know what was happening. And then I realized what was happening. The teacher had a pennant swag across the top of the board and it was touching the screen. Like a little wind would blow and it would tap on the screen. Let me know in the chat, did that happen to you at all this year? We had teachers that had Christmas lights up there and it would tap on the screen. Those little light bulbs would tap on the screen. Again, we couldn't really figure out what was happening. So, although I do love physical decorations, you can see here in my office all of my Disney decorations. Virtual decorations can be just as fun and they don't accidentally click on our screen. So, for our virtual decorations, and I promise I will share this link with you. Let me find my link. I have a link to two different creators in Canva for amazing virtual decorations. They've got a lot of elementary focused things. I'm just going to show you one of them right now, just for the sake of time. But when I send them to you and you click on those links, you're going to see these really colorful decorations that you can use in your classroom or items or activities. So here's like an animal dot to dot. By the way, if you're a kindergarten teacher, this is a fantastic starting exercise with your students because they're going to learn on the ViewSonic board how to use the pen, maybe how to use their finger. But this is a whole like dot to dot book. It'll load in just a second. There we go. That I can use with my ViewSonic board. And then maybe even I print out a couple and so that they want to use that, they can do that. But there are a lot of, you can see here, banners that you're able to use again with those virtual decorations. If you are looking for maybe like a new fun way to celebrate birthdays, I would suggest going onto Canva. You can I've seen it too where people have like a video of a candle and then the student blows it out and the slide switches and the candle's blown out. So virtual decorations can be really fun and they just utilize that beautiful ViewSonic board that you have. So lots of really cool things with virtual decorations in Canva. And again, I will share some of my favorite creators with you. This one right here that you see the welcome banner, those were items that were already made in Canva. So all I did was searched for welcome banner. Same thing with this October here. I did not make that. I just typed in the word October and it was one of the options. And same thing with that birthday cupcake. So what if I have a student's birthday, it's up on the ViewSonic board and there's some interactivity in there. So virtual decorations with Canva. All right, our next one. Oh, this is my favorite. And I know you maybe already have a calendar that you use, and that's totally fine. You can continue to use the calendar. I happened to see this one. I think I was scrolling on Instagram one day and they had just a calendar, like a daily calendar or something that was like up on the board when students walked in. And I loved the idea of it, so I recreated it. And this is for starting of August this year through, I think I did it even through July of next year. This is just a daily calendar. So thinking about how can I utilize my Viewsonic board to do a daily calendar with my students. So I'm actually going to go back to Canva on this one. I did not mean to exit that fully, but that's okay. So on this one right here, I've got this daily calendar and I am able to add in some text boxes. So maybe this is like where our agenda is going to go. Like what do I want them to do? I can also add a shape over what day it is. So I'm going to add a shape here. The problem is that right now you can't really see through my shape. So let's do this. We're going to make it like a highlighter. So it'll be yellow. Oops, not that one. Yellow, and it will be transparent. And now I know you probably don't want to think about this yet, but the first day of school. So we have something up on the Viewsonic board. So using it as our daily calendar. I know that we already saw the interactive daily calendar, but if I have something that I just want to have like up on my board as students come in, this is a really easy way to display those things. I can also, if you remember on your Viewsonic board, when you turn it on and you have something displayed on there, there are those arrows on the side. And if you tap on one of the arrows, you get your pen tools. So I can display a slideshow or something from Canva that I've created and then use my pen tool to write on top of this. So what I'm writing doesn't need to stay, maybe, and we could even like highlight the day. But I have just this agenda or this calendar. What do I want my students to do for that day? I could also include like lunch count kind of stuff in here too. There's a lot of uh, neat ideas for lunch count out there. I did not include that in here. There are a lot of teachers at TSC that have lunch count ideas. So please reach out if you want something. Again, if you're looking for, I need something new, I need something to spice up our routine. I don't like what I currently have. Okay. The other thing I want to mention with daily calendar, because I don't think I did this before. If you use a paper calendar, or you have like a bulletin board where you're posting things, please continue to use that. I'm not saying that you need to create these things and make them all digital, but if you're looking for some wall space, that might be a thing that you make digital. Now, I know in some classrooms, they like to have that date up there for the students so that as you're doing work, they can see those things, right? They can see how many days have we been in school? What day of the week is it? What season is it? All of those things. If they're going to stay up there, then I wouldn't utilize your Viewsonic board with it. But if you are considering doing a virtual calendar, these are some great options. Okay, number of the day. So number of the day, this is another seesaw one because I love my seesaw. Seesaw has, there's actually a creator that has a ton of number of the day lessons. I want to make sure that I find her and I will give you her name. There's a lot of really, there she is, Mary. So this is our tip for this one. She has a lot of number of the day activities, basically every number. And then I think above 20, she has like a template for you to actually add your own numbers in there. But this is one that I could see being like a whole group on the ViewSonic board, but also individual on their iPads, right? So this is something that we do together as a class. So this number of the day, I'm going to add some buttons in here. And so this, she has already created these things for you and for your students. So you don't have to worry about doing that kind of stuff, right? I want a number rainbow. So we're going to add. So we're able to participate as a class in this number of the day. If you search in the community library for Seesaw for number of the day, you'll probably come across several different activities, but you're looking for that Mary is her first name. Yeah, she's not even coming up as the first one, but there's a lot in here. The other one that I want to mention in there are Lisa Dukes has several handwriting practice sheets. So handwriting practice sheets for students to use. So this is just like a regular handwriting practice. And then there are other creators in here that have like actual letter writing practice. What I would recommend with that is, yes, they can use the pen on the ViewSonic board. I wouldn't do it on the iPad because, as you know, having them write with their finger is not really helping with that. So number of the day is our next tip. All right, and my last tip here is going to be our ViewSonic Originals. So I kind of already talked about like some handwriting ideas, but ViewSonic actually has a ton of original content on their website. So I'm actually going to send you the website. And when you get into myviewboard.com, once you get into myviewboard.com, we are looking for ViewSonic Originals. So if you're looking for, I want an activity that is essentially supposed to be used with a ViewSonic board, or I want to see like, what are other people using the ViewSonic board for? Yes, I know that I can use Seesaw with it and Google Slides and all of that stuff, but what about ViewSonic content? So, ViewSonic Originals are lessons that have already been created that will open, excuse me, in your whiteboard software. They will open in your whiteboard software. So, I'm going to actually narrow it down to, I'm going to start with kindergarten. And there are, a few different activities in here that students can do on the whiteboard. So I'm just going to pick one, shape lesson, and I'm able to preview it down here at the bottom. So it's going to show me what the students are going to do for this lesson. So this one, it looks like we're going through each of these three shapes, and then this looks like maybe they would sort it. Okay, I like this lesson. Maybe I want to use this lesson. How do I get this? So when I'm on this ViewSonic lesson here in the top right-hand corner, I have three dots and I can choose to download it. What's wonderful is these files are already going to open in your whiteboard software. So if I don't have my whiteboard software open, it's going to prompt me to open it. I'll give it just a second to load up, and then it's just going to load that activity in the whiteboard. Similar to what it did for my Google Slides, it's doing the same thing for this activity. Trace and draw 2D shapes. Wonderful. I'm going to go to my next slide. And this one, we're looking at a square. So it wants me to trace the shape. And so students would maybe practice tracing this shape. And so on. And we'll go through the next one. We'll go to the next shape. You get the tracing idea. Then I want the students to, oops, one more. I want the students to now take these shapes down here and drag them to the shape that they match. So they're able to drag these shapes down here. So this is an activity that was already created for me. I did not need to do anything except for download it and open it. That's it. That is Viewsonic original content. So I would recommend when you get in here to browse your grade level and then also a grade level below and above your grade level, because I think you're going to see that some of the content might span several different grade levels. Well, what else do they have in here? Along the top, I've got several different icons. Another really great tool in here, and I think I might even like this one better than the original content, and these are backgrounds. So if you've ever noticed in your ViewSonic content, if I've got a new slide here, the background options are very few. So there's not a lot that I can do with a background or adding a background in let me get to my backgrounds. Adding a background in my whiteboard. There's only like so many options that I have. Of course, it doesn't want to load for me right now. There we go. There's only so many options that I have. Not a ton in here. There's some pictures of things. Again, this is something that we shared earlier when we came in. But I can also go into ViewSonic Originals and look at any of the content that they might have here. So I'm just going to go into worksheet because I do want to show that we have some, hopefully they're in here. Nope, of course they're not. I think it might actually be in the lines one. That's what it is. All right, we have our alphabet handwriting. If I click on that, I'm going to download it. And then what I'm able to do is actually add it in as a background. Oops. I'm going to add it in as a background. I want to upload this. It's going to go in my downloads, and there it is. So now apply to this page. Now I've got this background that we're able to use as a class. So again, thinking about what are some beginning of the year activities that I might do with students. Maybe it's like a letter of the day. And now we're going to go in and I want the students to come up and we're going to practice writing our letter. So it actually gives me the numbers in here. I can ask a couple different students to come up and actually write these. Maybe they're practicing on their own whiteboards or on their own piece of paper. We're going to draw a picture of up here of something that starts with an A. I'm not going to have you watch me draw an apple, but I'll actually write apple. So excuse my terrible handwriting with my mouse. But I have these handwriting worksheets, which are fantastic. So we've got all of these handwriting worksheets here, and I can click see all to see every single one of them. Ooh, they even have some with words on them already. So that's fun. So lots of different options for backgrounds. They also have numbers in here. And then you saw in the worksheet one that they have other options, not just the handwriting ones, but other things that we might be able to use that maybe we just want a fun little background for some activity that we're doing in our class. So those are backgrounds in there. If I continue going, I've got graphics. I don't use these as much, but they are kind of useful if you're looking for something specific. And then finally, we have some online games. So these are games that have already been built for your ViewSonic board. So if we click play, this is a game that we can play as a class on my ViewSonic board. Insect rescue. Gross. I'm not reading any of the, yep, got it. Any of the directions. So it's a little quiz on this one. So a few different online games that you and your students are able to play, just something fun in here. We also shared a ton of websites last year with you that had games that you can play in the Viewsonic board. A really popular one was the I Spy game. That's a fan favorite. We love that one because it's that infinite I Spy. That would be a really great back to school activity that you maybe just have up and you just tell the students to find the person in the corner and they're able to tap and find that person. All right, I am going to open the floor to any questions that you might have. If you don't have any questions, feel free to sign off. I will share links to everything that I shared today. So don't feel like if you missed something, you'll never see it again. I promise you will see these things again.